experience a loss of someone close to you, dealing with the grief can seem impossible. Joining us now over Zoom with tips on how to work through that is Clinical Director of the Samaritan Counseling Center, Rebecca Morris. Rebecca, how do you define grief?
Grief is a normal response, Sally, to loss. We normally think of it in terms of losing a loved one, but it can be other losses, loss of a home or a relationship or even a job. It's all of the emotions that go along with that we're familiar with. It's very universal as an experience, but also very individual. It's influenced by our past experiences as well as our maybe cultural influences of our family or our race or ethnicity. Feelings of sorrow and longing, anxiety, physical difficulties. It can take many forms.
Yeah, we hear often that everybody grieves differently. What are some of the symptoms that you may be grieving something, but it's manifesting in other ways in your life?
And the symptoms are often physical. You know, you have difficulties with sleeping, with eating. You can feel a respiratory, breathing difficulties, a tightness in the chest. It can cause fatigue. And so sometimes it's hard to tease out, especially if it's a delayed grief over something that maybe happened in the past. We can realize that we haven't even dealt with it fully, and it can be affecting us even years later.
Yeah, we hear time heals, but that's not always true. It can be years from a loss, and then you feel those symptoms of grief once again.
That's right. I don't think really grief is not something that ends. It's not something you get over. You just learn how to put it in some place of acceptance and maybe even meaning. If you have a faith system or if you've got experience with grief where you realize you've grappled with what meaning does it have. But we carry it forward, hopefully in a healthy place and in a place of remembrance. But I'm not sure it ever really goes away when we've lost someone we love. We carry that memory.
There are 5 stages of grief that we hear about. What are those?
Well, the traditional stages we hear about are denial, that early stage where we don't even believe it happened. And I think our brains are designed to protect us from what we can't really wrap our head around for a little bit until we're ready to accept it. And then there's anger. How could this have happened? Why did it happen? And bargaining, this sense of this isn't real, and if I can just do something different, it'll be undone. Depression, often we're very familiar with the sadness that comes with the feelings of grief. And then ultimately acceptance. Now, it's important that these stages are not linear. They're not, you don't move from one into another. They're very fluid. They come and go over time. And hopefully the final stage can be some sense of meaning that we have from the loss. So we can kind of identify all of these as normal. And sometimes you feel like you might be going crazy, but you're not. It's a very normal process.
Yeah, how can we cope and feel better? And then what are some of the signs that perhaps you may need some professional help to work through grief?
Well, acknowledging and asking for help, having people around you, even 1 or 2 trusted people that you can share your feelings with. It feels very vulnerable to feel so raw. But usually there's someone around who shares the feelings with us. And accept help. You will have people offering to do things for you. Let them. You're actually blessing them by allowing them to do something to be helpful. In terms of knowing when you need professional help, a lot of folks will seek professional help early, if for no other reason than to have someone to talk to when we feel like we don't want to burden our other family members more. We want someone who won't be upset by all of our feelings that are coming out. So even early on, it can be helpful. Sometimes grief becomes prolonged and is even diagnosable as a mental health disorder if it becomes so prolonged and complicated that it's a year later still crippling every day. And so there's more intensive therapies that can go along with that kind of a situation.
If someone wants to reach out to you for some additional support, how can they do that?
Well, they can go to our website at tsccenter.org or can call us at 334-262-7887.
Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us here on Alabama Live. We appreciate it.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.